Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back into the channel today for a 3-game playoff slate. I appreciate y'all being here, and I can't catch a break, man. Yesterday, I had the over-under 12.5 rebounds for Giannis. Would have been a couple $100 swing in the night. Instead of losing $60 on the night, right, having a negative night, this is for prop betting. In DFS, we actually had a substantially decent night when you factor in that Damian Lillard was on their own when it came to the time being. If you were on the live stream, you heard all about it. Factoring in that ownership, got the highest score on the slate, and there wasn't that many players scoring highly. So if you just kind of had him, you probably did decent. But my, oh my, Giannis Antetokounmpo, 12.5 over under rebounds. He's got 12 rebounds, and then he gets this long, lofty rebound that's a BS rebound, in my opinion, as of somebody who's got the under, and ends up losing with his 13 rebounds. What are you going to do? What are you going to do, ladies and gentlemen? How y'all doing? I'm happy you're here right now. Let's get into this slate. 3-game slate, better than a 2-game slate. Although that was a very good 2-game slate, one game blows out, kind of makes it a little bit wonky to an extent with that Miami team not really getting there at all. But let's smack you right now. The number 8 play on the slate is somebody that I'm not excited to play. You're probably not excited to play. There's a couple of guys that are right around this range from the Clippers, right? Rajon Rondo got 24 minutes last time. I think he's only going to hold those minutes and get more, similar to last year's postseason where Reggie Jackson slowly lost minutes. Reggie Jackson, the regular season guy. Reggie Jackson can't play defense, and in this series, you're going to need to have a guard to play defense. Pat Beverly's back, and Rajon Rondo makes sense against one Luca Dantic, against Tim Hardaway Jr., etc., etc. Jalen Brunson, a great finisher at the rim. These guys are going to have to be out there. And that does allow Nicholas Batum to stay out there, who's a man who played 32 minutes in the last game. I'm giving Batum 30 minutes in this game as I expect him to start yet again. And Batum is somebody that is going to be not the greatest of players, right? But he does fill a pretty weak position in the small forward spot for you, and he fills value. Now, here's the thing. Yesterday, we had a $3,800 Austin Rivers pick up a ton of ownership. And maybe that was a right call. Maybe it wasn't. We had some other pivot options. Paul Millsap was a guy who I was saying is a direct pivot. Paul Millsap only plays 15 minutes, but he ends up getting 30 fantasy points. That's just how it works out in the playoffs. These guys play less minutes, but they're more intense minutes. And that usually translates to sometimes them laying a big fat egg for you, a goose egg, or sometimes it means they're actually going to go out there and play decent and get more production from that intensity. Nicholas Batum is not somebody I expect to be insanely intense, but I don't expect 15 minutes. 30 minutes of play today from Nicholas Batum for a guy who's been around a 0.875 fantasy point per minute producer. It's just very meh. It's just very average, but it's the value play that you may need today if the ownership isn't dramatic on him to fill out the rest of your lineup. Batum, for me, the number 8 play on the slate with his team having around an average pace, projected pace spot, a 102 projected pace, and a 111.25 team implied total. Thank you for being here. Happy National Wine Day to all you out there. Happy National Brown Paper Bag Day. Maybe you got to go to your kid's Little League game today, or even worse, T-ball, and just watch them fucking swing the bat at a tee for 2 hours. Take your brown bag, take your wine, throw them things together, and celebrate 2 holidays at once. Enjoy yourselves today. But thank you for being here. We will be live later today. We'll also have a golf video out for this week's event, the Charles Schwab Classic. A smaller field event, but we'll talk through that as well on the live stream later today. So like, subscribe, and the big one, notification bell. Next week, I'll be doing the videos this weekend for a couple. Next week, we'll start some NFL season-long content as we approach the month of June, your boy's birthday. Officially, in my opinion, the best month of the motherfucking year. So why not start the NFL during that week? Let's get into it now with the number 7 play on the day today. The number 7 play on the day today, somebody that I like a lot. And there's a lot to unpack here with Chris Paul. Not a ton, but a good amount, right? Chris Paul gets hurt in that last game. Doesn't miss a ton of time, but he does miss some time. Doesn't miss a ton, but he misses some, and he still plays 36 minutes. What that tells me is that there's a really good chance, and this game was close down the stretch, there's a really good chance that Chris Paul is going to be playing at least 36 minutes since he played that last game. He checked out and he missed some time in that game. And if you were not watching, you could see the game flow above my head right now. Chris Paul gets hurt at the beginning of the second quarter. He checks out with 9 minutes and 19 seconds right there, stint number 3. He checks back in with 5 minutes. So there's an argument that he loses 4 minutes. But even if you just say he loses 2 of those minutes right there, Chris Paul can play 38 to up to 40 minutes in the postseason. This makes sense as we saw him only playing 32 minutes towards the end of the regular season for a guy who normally is playing like 35 minutes a game. So you give Chris Paul that run. You factor in since the beginning of April, Chris Paul is averaging 1.29 fantasy points per minute. Mic drop, jaw drop, pick that shit up back off the floor. 1.29 fantasy points per minute. That is way better than Devin Booker, who went off in the last game. Chris Paul now getting more minutes with over a 42% assist percentage since April 1st. In 32 minutes of play, he's been averaging 10 assists. In 36 to 38 to 40, you can expect a lot more than the 8 assists that he got last game. Oh yeah, he also shot 37.5%. Chris Paul has been shooting 60% effective field goal rate over the last 7 weeks of the season. So everything in Chris Paul's eyes right now. The stock is down for some people. In my opinion, the price point really hasn't changed. He shot poorly. He didn't get all the assists, and he played a little bit injured and did not get full minutes. Wheels up for Chris Paul. I loved him last time. I like Chris Paul a lot again. I think he's going to be projecting out for me for a good amount of fantasy points in the 40 range, and I'm hoping that Chris Paul right now is not as owned as people want him to be because of his week 1 or game 1 performance. I'm all in right now on Mr. Chris Paul. Now, the number 3 play on the slate today is going to be one, and similar to Chris Paul in terms of having to unpack some stuff, is Kemba Walker at $7,200. What do you mean, Sal? Kemba Walker, he stunk last game. All right, well, let's look at why Kemba Walker only played in that last game 27 minutes. There's an actual reason why. And you can see Kemba Walker's run is directly above me right here. There is Kemba Walker highlighted. Kemba Walker plays normal run in the first quarter. He plays 9 minutes in the first quarter, aka on pace to play over 36 minutes in the game. He comes in and he checks in the second quarter. He picks up his second and third personal fouls within 50 seconds. So now he's done. He doesn't play the final 7 minutes of the second quarter. So there's 7 minutes gone out of his rotation, right? So for a guy who played 27 minutes, you take 7 minutes away, well, there's 34 minutes of play, right? And then you see he ends up playing a couple of more minutes, 5 minutes and 23 seconds in the third quarter, picks up his fourth personal foul, and gets 2 turnovers. He checks out. There's an argument there to say that he lost at least 1 or 2 minutes since he did play 9 minutes to start the game. And then he checks back in and he plays the final 11 and a half minutes of the game, so the final 30 seconds is lost because the game is basically over at that point. So let's just say he lost that second quarter run because of having the 3 personal fouls in the last 30 seconds. Well, right there, Kemba Walker would be on pace to play 34 and a half minutes. And there's an argument to say that he would have played a couple of more minutes if he got more run in the third quarter without picking up his 4th personal foul. So Kemba Walker on the season without Jaylen Brown, and Jaylen Brown's not going to be out there, is averaging 1.2 fantasy points per minute. And now he's going to be playing, and I'm going to project him in this game for at least 34 minutes of play. I wouldn't knock you if you project him for 36. But if you give him 34 minutes of play, right, and not the 27 that he got last time, and you factor in that the Brooklyn Nets, who have been a bad defensive team all season long, first game of the playoffs, actually look good on defense. And it makes sense because there's a different intensity level, but they're a team that wants to push the pace on offense. I'm not sure how much of that translates over to defense throughout a full 4 to 7 game series. Kemba Walker at $7,200, in my opinion, is underpriced today. Kemba Walker at $7,200, if he just averaged a point per minute today, would be basically getting you value, if not better than that. And Kemba Walker is going to average well over a fantasy point per minute if you play out this series X amount of times and on average. So Kemba Walker, the number 6 play on the day today. Now, the number 5 play we can break down pretty simply for you today. $10,600 Luca Dantic. He picked up where he left off last year in this series, hitting buzzer beaters and just going absolutely ballistic down the stretch. He actually had, if you watch his game, 2 fucking airballs. He airballed it twice down the stretch in this game. Didn't even matter. Continued to just absolutely dominate down the stretch. So Luca Dantic, here's the thing. You're going to be seeing more Rajon Rondo out there. They can't have Reggie Jackson playing 20 plus minutes. Maybe you get a little more Pat Beverly out there, who seems to be working his way back from injury over the last couple of weeks. Maybe that slows down Luca Dantic. It didn't last year, although Rondo wasn't there, but I really don't think it's going to this year. A 104 team implied total today, and there's a couple things to point out here. One, Luca Dantic played 41 minutes of play. You were seeing towards the end of the regular season, you were lucky if Luca Dantic was touching 34 to 35 minutes of play. So now you're getting Luca Dantic, a man who's averaging 1.5 fantasy points per minute on the season, which is a little bit less than last year, but now you're getting him playing 6, 8 more minutes in the game, and the price point isn't changing. I mean, Luca has been $10,800 at the end of the regular season, right? He's actually cheaper than he was at the end of the regular season. He was $11,000 flat. Now he's $10,600, and he's playing 6 to 8 more minutes a night because it's the postseason, and he's closing out games the final 16 minutes instead of the final 10 minutes, right? And then it also helps that Luca Dantic fills the small forward role for you, so you can fill that weak position with small forward. You can put maybe somebody like Kemba Walker or Chris Paul that we talked about in the point guard spot, and now you're looking at a lot better lineup than putting some other wonky small forward in there, right? So Luca Dantic today looks absolutely fantastic. I didn't know if they would give him 40 plus minutes because we haven't seen it all season long. I thought maybe he's playing with an injury. Maybe they'll give him 36 minutes. He gets 41 minutes. Now it's pretty easy to project Luca for like 38 minutes of play, if not more. So Luca Dantic for me is the number 5 play. Before we get into the top 4 plays on the slate, I want to let you know about Prize Picks, the spot last night where I ended up having that 5-way flex play. Maybe some of you trailed me on that one. I put in $100 on it. I actually got 40 back. So that's a nice thing about Prize Picks. It's not just a straight out parlay if you don't want it to be. I actually got 40% of my money back, so it wasn't a complete loss. But yes, it was not nice seeing Giannis Antetokounmpo swing me a couple $100 swing there just because of having that long, wonky rebound at the end of his run. But Prize Picks right now, I have not yet done my finalized projections, but on Prize Picks right now is an over-under site. So it's over-under. You can just take player props. You can take the over-under on fantasy points. We took some props and fantasy points yesterday. We talk about it in great detail on the live stream later today. Early on right now, we kind of talked about some of these fellas. I've got the over on Kemba Walker fantasy points. So I have 3 fantasy point spots because their props market isn't fully up yet as I'm recording recording this. I have the over on Evan Fournier, 27.5. This is a little bit of a foreshadowing of what we'll talk about in this video, and I'll tell you why this might be my favorite play in the day, and I'll tell you why this might go to 30 pretty soon, so be sure to check it out. And then right now, I'm still waiting on this one. I placed the Kemba and Evan Fournier. I do like the Rondo 20, but I want to see what my projections look like. Rondo played 24 minutes in that last game. He is a point per minute producer. I expect him to, if anything, increase his minutes and not decrease his minutes, as his defense is needed more than Reggie Jackson's quote-unquote offense in this series. So that's where I'm at early on. Now there will be a lot more points, rebounds, assists, spots that I will have interest on. We can talk about it in the Discord. We can talk about it on Patreon, and we can talk about it later on the live stream. So if you want to join in there, you can check it out. If you want to tail any of these and maybe use my projections to get better options in some other spots, use the code SAL. So here you go. Take 2 seconds of your time. And if you're in New York, this is now legal in New York as of this past weekend. So if you've been in New York, you're a New Yorker out there, you've been craving to bet legally somewhere, here you go. It is now legal here on Prize Picks. Take your player props for any sport, but the NBA playoffs are here for you. Link in the description below. When you sign up, use the code SAL. That is just simply my name, SAL, and any money you put in, they'll double it up to $100 Ruski. So if you want to try it out with 25 bucks, and they'll give you 50 to try it out. You want to max it all out and take advantage of the deposit bonus, put 100 in. Now you got $200 Ruskis because you came from your boy Sal. Help you out, you help me out. We get a deposit over there. We get to continue to have them as a sponsor and continue to put on these lovely shows for you and make the content only better out here in the streets. Thank you, Prize Picks, for sponsoring the show. Again, use that code SAL to let them know it came from me. So I told you there'd be a little bit of a foreshadowing, and there was. And that foreshadowing was Evan Fournier. Evan Fournier today is going to be an absolutely dynamite play. Evan Fournier has been averaging a fantasy point per minute right on the nose with Jaylen Brown off the court since he has become a Boston Celtics, and it's actually a decent couple of 100-minute sample. Evan Fournier, you can put in the shooting guard and small forward spot. Maybe you got Luca in the small forward spot today. Fournier just $6,000 put in the shooting guard spot. These are weak positions, the weakest of positions to fill in your lineup with high-minute, high producers or decent producers. Evan Fournier in the first game of that playoff series played 39 minutes. Evan Fournier is what did I just tell you? He's a fantasy point per minute producer with Jaylen Brown off the court. So on average, that means he should score 39 minutes. Well, obviously, there's other things that come into play, right? The pace, the get total, the defense, all that type of stuff. But just on average, an easy projection. 39 minutes at a fantasy point per minute, 39 fantasy points. What did he score in that game? 25.5 fantasy points. The price point drops $100. Why did he only score 25.5 fantasy points? Well, he only shot 30%. He shot 10 times and he shot 30%. For a guy in the season who's shooting closer to 60%. And if he shoots a season average in that game, just average, we don't want you to be better than that average, just average in that game, he makes an additional 3 baskets, he scores an additional 6 points, and he scores 32 fantasy points for you at $6,000, which is actually beneficial, right? So Evan Fournier playing these massive minutes, a guy who towards the end of the regular season was playing big minutes, 34, 36, and what was he doing? 44.5 fantasy points, 30, 51, 34, 36, 38. Those are his fantasy point totals, not just me picking them out in a row. So Evan Fournier right now is a massive discount, and he's playing bigger minutes than we actually expected. They're not giving Peyton Pritchard in the rookie Aaron Naismith run. They're giving Evan Fournier 39 instead of 35 minutes. Fournier at $6,000. I told you, the over 27 and a half right now for a guy I projected out for 30 plus fantasy points today is absolutely dynamite on Prize Picks. I like Evan Fournier a lot. The number 3 play in the slate, maybe Fournier should be higher than this player. Number 3 play in the slate for me is his teammate Robert Williams. Now here's the thing. Robert Williams almost had a triple-double with blocks. He had double-digit points, he had 9 rebounds, and he had 9 motherfucking blocks in that last game. There was some concerns over his turf toe. He played 23 minutes and he played very well. And there's a couple things to point out that not a lot of analysts out there are going to be talking to you about, but your boy right here will be talking to you about. Robert Williams did not play much in the past postseasons because he was terrible on defense. He was just kind of slow. He couldn't switch. He was like very Boban Marjanovic-like. And now he was switching in this series. He was switching on motherfucking James Harden. He blocked James Harden a couple of times in this game. So Robert Williams has the ability to actually play more minutes and not play less minutes like we've seen in past postseasons. But there is the ability for Robert Williams to play 25, 26 minutes, and I would not be shocked since his defensive presence is actually there. Now, here's the thing. Don't think that I'm a fool in thinking that Robert Williams is going to get 9 rebounds a game. No, but Robert Williams is a high blocks player, one of the best, if not the best, right there with Hassan Whiteside in the NBA right now. So even if Robert Williams only gets 3 blocks in this next game, okay, you take off 6 blocks, that's 12 DraftKings points. Okay, he only scores for you 32 fantasy points at $4,600. The point is not that he had a lot of blocks. That was great, and there's an ability for that to happen. That's great. I'm not relying on that. I know that's going to drop back down. It's the fact that he's just $4,600 right now. Since the start of the new year, January 1st, with Jaylen Brown off the court, Robert Williams has played 446 minutes for the Celtics team, and he is currently averaging right now 1.22 fantasy points per minute. There's an argument that says that is too low, but even if we just give him this 1.2 fantasy points per minute that you're seeing right there, that is DraftKings points per minute. Even if we just give Robert Williams that right now, 1.22 fantasy points per minute, given the 23 minutes he got last time out, that is 28.1 fantasy points. At $4,600, that is still a glaring value. That is more than 6x value, which you're just not going going to find much of that on a 3-game showdown slate. So that is why Robert Williams is actually higher than Evan Fournier right now, because there's an ability to play more minutes, and the fact that he was actually switching successfully on defense allows me to believe that he can play at least those 23 minutes. He's healthy enough clearly to do that. That's our number 3 play today. And now the number 2 play in the slate is going to be one Kevin Durant. If you want to see all the projections, the ranks, if you want to use a lineup optimizer to help you build better lineups and not take as much time and have more control over those lineups, and a lot more things, a lot of other sports I cover, and in more depth, I build tools out there to reduce your research time and increase your chances of winning. We have a Discord for community access. All that type of stuff is available. It is linked down below on Patreon. You can come join the community of patrons of over 400 strong in the Discord, chatting up every single day. A ton of talk in there about prize picks, about the NBA playoffs right now, about PGA when those events come on. Weekend chatter starts around the MMA when that comes. Cannot wait for the NFL discourse that will be in there as well. So be sure to come in there. If you have any questions on it, let me know. But there's a link down below. There'll be a video and there'll be a whole list of kind of what you get and what package works best for you in there to help increase your chances of winning, help increase your bankroll. So check it out, link down below, patreon.com/Sal_Vetri_. The number 2 play in the slate is arguably, again, somebody who maybe could be 1 or 2 spots lower when my final projections on Patreon do come out. But here's the thing. The highest team total on the slate at a 118.5 team implied total today, the highest team total by a significantly wide margin. That is 7.5 points higher than anybody else on the slate today for these Brooklyn Nets. So give me the one that's the most mispriced in Kevin Durant. Look, Kyrie Irving loses shot attempts and he loses assist percentage. Shot attempts to both KD and James Harden when they're healthy, and assist percentage in a massive way to James Harden. What does Kevin Durant lose? Well, he doesn't lose that much. He just shot 25 times in this last game. He struggled in the first half, so they gave him like 5 shots in a row at the third quarter. It got him going a little bit. He got to the free throw line some in that game. And in a game where Kevin Durant struggled, he scored over 50 fantasy points. So what I'm telling you right now is Kevin Durant should probably be $10,000, and he might be $10,000 by the time the next series starts, because yes, I do think that the Nets either get this in a sweep or in a gentleman's sweep. Durant has the opportunity to fill the weak small forward position for you, and he played in that last game 39 minutes. I've got Durant today for 38 minutes of play. I got Durant today for a little bit over 1.35 fantasy points per minute, which that right there already projects him out for over 50 fantasy points, and it's just how much higher does he project out when I add in my other variables. Durant didn't even play that well, like I said. Shot 10 of 25, 40% for a guy who's shooting in the upper 50s in true shooting percentage so far this season. Only had 1 assist, only had 1 block, only had 1 steal in that many minutes of play. There's a lot more peripheral stats to come here. Durant will be $10,000 in about a week to a week and a half. Take advantage of it while it lasts. The numero uno play on the slate today. Like and subscribe as we get into this number 1 play on the slate. Again, I appreciate you all so much for being here. We will be live later today at 6 p.m. East Coast time for an hour up until about a half an hour before lock. So we'll talk about any news that we have to, if there is any news, but we'll also, the biggest piece, build out some lineups, answer your questions, and hit on the leverage pieces. Yesterday we said Damian Lillard, Drew Holiday, these types of guys are starting to become the leverage pieces on the slate. So be sure to tune into that, liking, subscribing, the notification bell will let you know when we're ready for that. The number 1 play in the slate should be relatively obvious to you, and that is going to be one Kawhi Leonard today, because he's only $8,300. And it's not because he played very well in that last game, although his team lost. He fills that weak small forward for you. There's a lot of guys who fill a weak small forward for you today, right? Not as many shooting guards, right? You can put in the shooting guard spot a couple of players today, like an Evan Fournier, like a James Harden. But small forward, you could put Kevin Durant in there. Small forward, you could put Luca Dantic in there, right? You can put Evan Fournier in there. Now you could put Kawhi at $8,300. Kawhi's price point rises $300 after he plays 41 minutes. Like I said, going into that last game, you have these guys in Paul George and Kawhi Leonard playing 33 minutes every single game, maybe 34 during the regular season if the game was close and they really had to kind of stretch it out for you. And now the postseason's here. These guys are going to play 38 minutes. We've seen that in past postseasons like last year. So maybe they're going to play 38, 39 minutes. Oh, Kawhi comes out in a game that is very close and they're losing down the stretch and plays 41. I can comfortably project Kawhi Leonard today for 38 minutes of play. And obviously we see he can play more than that. Kawhi shot 22 times. He only shot 40% in that game, so he didn't play well. He shot 1 of 6 from three-point line. Kawhi had as bad of a shooting game as you can for Kawhi Leonard. He picked up his peripheral stats, and he scored 56 fantasy points. 4 steals will help you get there, but 50-plus points at $8,000. Kawhi Leonard, I told you Kevin Durant is underpriced. Kawhi Leonard should be at least Kevin Durant's price point of $9,300 today. You can tell me that Paul George is underpriced, $8,000, scored 40 fantasy points to last him out. Paul George is barely off this list. He almost made this list. Since the beginning of April, Kawhi Leonard has actually played worse than he has all season long, just slightly, right? He's shooting 55% effective instead of closer to 60%. Here's Kawhi Leonard right here. If we go to right now, Add More Funds. This is a free site that you guys can all be using. It's linked down below. Add More Funds. It's a data site tool to make your own kind of on-off tools. He's averaging this 1.26 number. That's his fantasy points per minute. This 28% 30%, that's his assist percentage. So 1.26 fantasy points per minute, right? Let's actually just drop that number even. Let's put it to 1.2. Let's say that he plays worse than average like he did last time out where he scored 56 fantasy points. Let's just say he averages 1.2 fantasy points per minute today, which again would be unlikely, but let's just say that that's what he does. And then let's say he plays 38 minutes, which I think there's a real chance he plays 40 minutes yet again, but let's just say he plays 38 minutes. So him playing less than average and playing less than the average minutes I expect him to play today, right? Those two things. So everything kind of goes wrong again for Kawhi Leonard. He'll project out for me for around 46.5 fantasy points at $8,300. Oh yeah, that means that he's about $700 to $800 underpriced in almost the worst case scenario today, outside of an injury, outside of foul trouble, making him only play 30 minutes. So I'm not surprising you. And yesterday, Jimmy Butler was a similar price, and I said similar things, and the game blew out in a major fashion, and it didn't work for you. So there are ways that this goes wrong. But no surprise to you, Kawhi Leonard, for me today at least, the number one play in the day. We'll have the updated projections out later on today for not just this, but the MLB for golf as well. We'll have a golf video out. Be sure to tune back in at 6 p.m. East Coast time for an hour live stream where I'll answer any of your questions. We can talk about the leverage on the slate. We can try and find the Damian Lillard play of today who will be lower owned. Hopefully, I'm hoping it's maybe like a $7,600 Chris Paul. You all rock. I'll see you in the next one. Sign up for Patreon down below. Get access to those projections, the Discord community, the lineup optimizer, and all the tools and analysis that will help you win more money and reduce your research time in a beautiful community that we're building on Patreon. And support the sponsor of the show, Prize Picks, especially my fellow New Yorkers out there. Staten Island, Brooklyn zone right here. Moving over now to North Carolina. Moving over to Pennsylvania. Moving over now to Texas. But a New Yorker at heart never leaves this motherfucking heart. If you're a New Yorker out there and you've been fiending for somewhere to sports bet, you can now do it. Player props, over-unders, all that type of stuff. Check it out over on Prize Picks. Link down below. That code SAL, S-A-L, any money you put in, double your money bonus up to $100 Rooskies because you came from your boy. That's me, Sal. I appreciate you, and I'll see a lot of you later on in the live stream today. You all rock. Enjoy the beautiful start to your Tuesday today.